What's up, Joe 200? It's me again. All right, so it's Sunday. It's March 14th, 2021. And what's really cool about the part of class we're going into right now, because I know a lot of you guys are business majors and econ majors. Some of you may be blending your business and econ interests in terms of just political science, or a lot of you are going to vote someday. And make decisions about the way our country is financing your lifestyle as well as the retirement for your parents and grandparents. And it's a whole real kind of economic principles that you're going to have to grapple with. So that's where we're going at right now. All right, so hey, check that out. I'm wearing my Polaris sweatshirt. It's a fishing boat that goes out of San Diego for you tuna guys. All right, so we'll go straight into week two's assignment. And like I said, we've been building to this point. We were discussing global matters. We're going to do global economics right now, okay? So we were kind of setting it up, and the cool thing about it as well is we're going to see reinforcement of a lot of the things we talked about. This was the U.S. study looking at populations. We dealt with why we're set up and for these chronic diseases of aging when we looked at the theories of aging. And then we went straight into the chronic disease of aging, and that's cancer, diabetes, and the many diseases that are linked to vascular disease, stroke, heart attack, kidney, renal disease. The end stage, okay, where some of these diseases put you at high risk for Alzheimer's. We talked about depression and just overall mental health. We talked about Alzheimer's disease. And that being type 3 diabetes. We went into the issues of caregiving then, what is out there, what's available, what's in store for you, okay? Are you going to have family caregiving, okay? Or are you going to have to finance some type of assisted living or nursing home facility? These are all things you're going to have to grapple with, and we're looking at, the reality of that, the burden of that. And so now we come into the economics of this situation. So this article right here is a really, really good article. It does put everything we've been talking about into an economics application, all right? And so I've already downloaded this article, and that is right here, okay? And so we'll just kind of go through it and look at the highlights. And a big part of this, it was kind of really brought into our consciousness when we looked at the economic meltdown that happened in 2008, okay? And how we were going to be able to finance things as a country, as a society, and as individuals. And the big deal of this is there's always going to be this political debate of you're spending too much for the things that you find to be part of your platform or interesting as party one, and then the party that's doing the spending says yes, but this is something that has to be done to maintain kind of a society coherence, okay? So it's always going to be this arm wrestle. So we're looking at these conflicting priorities, okay? One, we need to sustain public spending on things like pensions, okay, and healthcare, all right? So your CT2, what we're talking about in that is kind of a public pension system, Social Security. And then we also talk, of course, about the even more expensive issue, and that was Medicare, okay? And we've talked, that all about the fact that you guys, as the working segment of the population, are paying into this system, and it's not a savings account, it's not invested, and so so in order to pay for the ever-growing population, we need to draw more income out of you guys, okay? So how do we sustain this to keep people to have good quality of life versus the need to kind of reduce our budget deficits, okay? There's only, either you don't spend the money and people live more, frugally or with a lower quality of life, you do spend the money as a country, but somebody's going to pay, and that would be you through tax dollars. Okay, so and in so many countries are so much more worse off than we are. All right, and that's the bottom line. We look at countries like Greece and Italy and France. Um, they had really generous um, pension systems. All right, this is a defined benefit that you're going to get this X amount of money till the day you die, and they were all set up thinking that people were not going to live as long as we do. Okay, and so now their gross domestic product. Okay, so this is the amount of money that the government makes by selling goods, subtracted by the amount of money that the government has to put out to provide resources to its society. And so, this is a plus and a minus, and the minus is just growing and growing and growing. Okay, and so we get into this kind of what's called deficit spending. Alrighty. And this, it looks at globally what's going on, and we've talked about this already. Okay. By 2050, the situation globally is that the number of people under age 15 and over 60 will be equivalent in number, and this is historic. It's not how it's ever been before. All right. So what we do through here is we just kind of go through and we look at the pace at which this is happening. Of course, this happened early in Europe. We saw that early on in the first couple weeks assignments, and again, this was happening uh, for European nations. This shift to a lot more younger people um, was happening, at the turn of the millennium. Okay, so in year 2000, boom, that was it. It was the shift was on, and there were more older people than younger people. And then right behind that was North America, where the balance will completely shift by 2030, where they're again we're looking at the same numbers we're talking up here. Okay, that under 15 versus over 60. Latin America and Asia by 2040. So, it's like a domino effect as these other countries become more westernized, so they have a lot more economic stability and less agricultural and all the things that we like in terms of global economics. Okay. Alrighty. And so then, again, we go through all this and we look at, the raw numbers here. And then this kind of shows you right here, again, the transition, okay, in the age groups. We've seen this before. This is called an age pyramid. You see males, females. You see females outnumber males in the older ages. They live longer. And then we see by 2050 that you have a lot more people in this older age group that you see right here. Okay, so you can see it spreading outward like here. Okay. All right, and this is all population in millions. Okay, so what are the drivers? We've already talked about this. So a decline in fertility rate. Okay, and when we look at what's causing this fertility rate decline, a lot of it is economic. Okay, there's kind of an interesting kind of consequence of technology, and that some people that study populations, those are demographers, and they argue that obviously before we had ways to control birth control, sexual activity, there was an evolutionary link. Sexual activity was linked to having children or procreation. Okay, and modern contraception has redirected evolution. And so now people will use contraception to avoid reproduction, and there's a consequence. Okay, and why do we do that? We do that because we're trying to get ourselves set up as individuals to be more comfortable financially. It takes a lot longer to be trained, at the college and graduate school level. And then once you get into the workplace, it takes a lot longer to feel like you're in that comfort zone that you can now have children. And we're going to talk later on. Again, that burden, falls disproportionately on the females of our population. The second driver, of course, is with technology and advances, people die less. Okay, so Part of it is, hygiene, nutrition, lifestyle like exercise, and but another part of it is just, the ability to get in there and intervene. If somebody gets cancer, somebody has diabetes and heart disease, there are treatments out there that will extend the lifespan. Okay, and the implication of that, and we look in here, is that again, this is, has a lot to do with medicine, is that there is this eventual decline, and if you have just, kicked the can down the road, there's going to be a period of significant expenses. Okay, all righty. Okay, all right. So that's what that's all about right here. Okay, and again, this reviews, again, the interaction of these two. And we're talking about, decreased fertility. Okay, and when you're developing economic plans, both as a corporation and as a country, when you see this decreased fertility, it limits growth because it has a big impact on youthful labor markets. So that being said, one of the correction is to maintain training in your older workers. Okay, and this is has the benefit of also, when people stay working longer, then that means that they're going to be tapping in to the social welfare system at a much later age. Okay, I'm not going to be drawing on Social Security anytime soon, and by working for a large corporation like I do, I don't see the need to tap into Medicare either. Okay, so I'll just be using my company-based health insurance plan. So that's a benefit to you guys. Okay, and this is why you want me to keep working. All right. Okay. All right. So obviously, making me work helps you out, okay? But increased longevity for those people that do not stay competitive, okay, in the workplace. As a nation, we're going to have to finance healthcare and long-term care provisions, okay? So remember, we were asking you guys to come up with some plans. We want you guys to devise policies, and this is, where we're at. We want you to continue to think about how you're going to be on the ground floor of either designing policies for the corporation that you work for, or politically get in there and get involved in designing policies. Something as simple as tax credits, tax incentives, to help us in terms of our long-term care savings. These are all really important things. Tax credits for you if you're going to be having your parents, say, live in your household for the caregiving that you're going to be doing. These are all things to think about. All right. Okay. So when we look at these demographic deficits, again, a lot more old, a lot younger people, we start looking at labor market concerns, like I was mentioning. All right. And so there's, this is being discussed, worldwide, okay, in terms of the, micro and really the big global macroeconomic effects, okay? And it just depends on, again, the age composition of the population and are they trained, okay? We don't want people to retire, okay? We want people to continue to work, okay, and to create an improvement in economic activity, okay? But the reality is, perception is that if we see a decline in the proportion of younger people, we're going to see a reduction in economic activity as a country, okay, as a society. And you see that fewer people working, paying into the system, okay, and we see, like I said, increase older people, there's going to be an increase in economic burden, right? So if you have a government that pays pension systems, like we said, we look at Italy and Spain and France, all the European countries, there's a burden. We used to have more companies providing pensions, and that's pretty much disappeared because they realized that it was just financially not feasible. We still, though, have to pay for all of our local and federal government, okay? And that's a huge burden, okay? You look at the city of Laguna Niguel, all the city workers, okay? City managers, local guys driving around in little white trucks, We have to pay for our firefighters, have to pay for our police officers. Okay. We have to pay for everybody involved in state government, any aspects of state government. We have to pay for everybody involved in federal government. These are all pensions that have to be paid for. Okay. The alternative that we're going to train you guys in, because not very many people get to do that, is we're going to train you guys how to develop your own financial plan. Yeah, where you're going to be doing what's called defined contributions to your retirement. And we're going to get into all this, okay? Whether it's a 401k, 403b, an IRA, a Roth IRA, we're gonna get involved in all this, okay? All right. Again, this is looking at the different countries, okay? And we see that Korea is the most rapidly aging country right now. And this is looking from, again, a big global economic summits. This is the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development. And Korea is right behind Japan. Okay, and then again, the other countries are stacked right behind it. Okay, so what do we do to address this demographic deficit of fewer people working, fewer people paying into the pension system that is delivered to the older members of society, okay, and older people living longer. So it's just a basic equation, all right? Create programs that improve the conditions for you guys to have children at a much younger age. It is what it is, So how do we create these family-friendly policies, okay? And just really change the culture of having children. Immigration policy that is going to bring in workers, okay, that will further economic development. Okay, so that's a big deal. And then the other thing is, how do we create a climate, a condition, so that older people can work longer, okay? And that doesn't even mean you have to stay competitive and working in the most dynamic workplace that's really, really, technologically advanced, okay? But just create maybe even a step down, but an umbrella to catch people so that they can, work maybe for even less income, but still maintain their employment much later in life, out into their 70s if they can, if they're of value, and we see that around here, like in supermarkets and things like that. Oftentimes, it's just something as simple as a person that's bagging the groceries is an older person. These are all approaches. People that work at parks and things like that are older people. Okay. Here's the reality, okay? The cost of medicine is growing a lot faster than the profits made from all the different services that countries make. All the different types of consumables that are exported and also imported. Healthcare cost is number one. So it's like this, okay? And again, when we're talking about healthcare costs and older people, we're talking about out of your pocket, and that would be Medicare. Okay, and so there has to be a solution to all this, in terms of these costs. Okay, one solution that we see is again kicking the can down the road. Okay, so why don't we just create policies and incentive programs at the corporate level, but also at the health insurance level? Okay, so I'm not doing Medicare right now. I'm doing health insurance that is partially covered by my employer and also paid by me, and so you'll see it if I know you guys don't watch TV, but you're always watching about all the wellness programs that are out there trying to improve people's lifestyles so that they are not tapping in to the health insurance, okay? So we want healthy life expectancy, right? And so there is a lot of research on this and a lot of programs that are all about developing healthy life expectancy, all right? So we can't put our head in the sand. This social change has to be addressed, okay? You guys are gonna have to deal with this, okay? And a big deal is it's all fine and good for me. I've done well. I'm the top 1% of the country, but there's lots of inequities. Okay, there's inequities in terms of the ability to save money because of the cost of living, inequities in terms of access to healthcare. All right, I have access to economic resources, okay, because certainly, yeah, I work my behind to get off to get to this point in time, but then some people, don't have that opportunity. It just is what it is, and so and then there's inequities to social resources as well, So depending on where you live, okay, so it's something that has to be dealt with. Family structure is changing hugely, and we've talked about this, Um, ideally, in the traditional family sense, I had my first child when I was 39, my second child when I was 45. Okay. Um, that's not ideal in terms of caregiving distribution within the family network. It wasn't because I didn't find the right person. I did. I met Julie when I was 27, but we were poor. And so we had to defer reproduction, okay, until we wanted to, we chose to do this, not that there's no right way, but that was the way that a lot of us have chosen to do things. And so that means that I'm not going to have grandchildren around to help me out, most likely, okay, because my kids are 19 and 25 and still trying to figure things out. And your generation is kicking that down the road as well. So they're more likely to have kids in their 30s as well. The other thing that happened, we had two kids, we're typical. So many, my brother had no kids, my other brother had four kids. He's older than me, okay? But when you look at his kids, okay, when I'm talking about my brother had three kids. When you look at his kids, only two, only one of them had children. I said, there's just going to be this selling out of childlessness, okay? And there's a lot of you that won't have siblings. It's just it's just that, and that's what's this weird, changing family structure. Lastly, we have right here. We as I've indicated, we've got to delay. Everybody's delaying life transitions, okay? I moved out when I was 18, never returned home, but that's not the case for you guys. Okay, it's taking longer to become competitive in the workplace. So especially during this pandemic, you guys all had to reboot and go home and live with your parents. A lot of times it was financially as well as healthcare driven. Um, and so you're going to be more reliant on your parents. Okay, so that means you're going to have children a lot longer later in life, and it's going to be everything I talked about here. With this falling fertility, it's going to change the caregiving distribution that's going to happen. The other life transition that's being changed is that older people need to work longer. That's what they talk about here. Okay. Um, there used to be this kind of agreed upon contract. That's what they're talking about here, where I care for you when you're a little kid, you care for me when I'm older. Okay. And just because of the big gaps that are happening in terms of when people have kids, the contract is changing. All right, now let's look here. I'll go back over here. So that's Article 1. This is a really cool here, Article 2, right here. It looks at a couple of individuals, right? This was from 2019, and some of this situation I'm going to refer to is even more dire now because a lot of there are two groups that are most significantly impacted by this coronavirus pandemic. One is women because of childcare. Sorry for doing that. One is women because of childcare, and a lot of them had to basically either balanced the two and it limited their productivity, or many had to make the really difficult decision of having to leave their jobs either permanently or temporarily to deal with childcare. The other one is that as there was a constriction of corporate life of companies, a lot of older people would let go, and they find it, along with women, most difficult to get back into employment. Okay. All right. So just some stats here. This is a really cool article. Quick article. This is Bob Orozco. This is where I live, Laguna Niguel. I know exactly where he works. He's 89. And this is what he's lucky in that the YMCA does employ him. Probably not at the same level he had before, but he still maintains employment. Okay. And they talk about some of the stats that you're going to see here, okay? And that's about 1 in 4 adults over the age of 65 are in the workforce right now, okay? And so more people are staying in the workforce longer, okay? One is for fulfillment, the other is because they have to, okay? Um, and you're going to find that you're going to be transitioning from multiple companies, okay? Julia did this, she worked for a lot of different companies, okay? Probably had 5 different careers in her career trajectory. When we look at retirement funds like 401ks, they took a hit during the 2008 economic recession, okay, but they've come back dramatically. However, it was a shot over the bow. A lot of these accounts have lost a lot of their value, and if you made that bad decisions during that period of time, you paid dearly for it. Um, the reality is, we look at boomers and their median savings, as indicated right here, is 150,000. That includes their equity in their home, so it's not a lot of money. Okay, and roughly half of private sector employees, people that don't have pensions, have no retirement at all. Half of our country has nothing. Okay, and I want you to wrap your head around that. Okay. Um, and that's why when we look, we see that about a quarter of retirees, 90% of their living expenses come from their Social Security income, all right? Which means they're not having the greatest of lives, okay? So Bob tells his story right here, okay, about what working, and and then the article reflects back on as to why people do stop working. Okay, and a lot of it is health setbacks. Okay, and then like I said, there's layoffs, and then once you get laid off, there's age discrimination. All right, so those are the biggies in terms of the older population. Okay, we look at another example. This is Kylie Cohen. Okay, she worked in Hollywood as a TV copywriter. She also worked as a librarian. She was divorced. Okay, again, women fare more poorly. Part of it is they don't make as much money. They have to take time off for kids, so they have these gaps in their contributions to the retirement programs. And right now, at age 65, Kylie lives on Social Security and food stamps. Okay, and Kylie lived a very vibrant life. It is not what she wanted. Luckily, she found um, reasonable senior housing. They talk about it right here, and we need to think about this, wrap our head around this, either by contributing to this type of program privately or at the state and federal level. Okay. Look at Kylie's situation, right? So 79% of her Social Security is spent on rent. Okay, this leaves, and I want you to wrap your head around this. She has $245 for everything else that she has to spend money on for the rest of the month. $240 a month, $45 a month for everything else once the rent's gone. Okay. Same story here, okay? This is for Veronica Bryant, okay? Again, using almost all of her Social Security for rent. Luckily, they found this great housing, low rent to reduce cost housing that's helping them out. And they have friends that can help each other out. Okay, this is another example here of a more successful retirement. Okay, this is Carrie Eagles. She's 70 years old. The difference is Carrie was a teacher her whole life. She has a pension set up from being a teacher her whole life, and now she's giving back. So she's helping people out like these people that are less fortunate. And but it shows you the importance of having this umbrella to catch you financially. All right, so not all of us are going to have pensions, so I'm going to teach you guys how to set yourselves up early so you don't have to become worried about living your lives like these poor individuals here that really had successful lives but just didn't count on it. Impacted by divorce, things like that. Okay. What Carrie mentions in this article is that she gives back and stays active because it really improves your life, it improves your cognitive abilities, and yeah, that's clear. Just because you retire, you don't want to stop being you. All right, cool. So that's the essence of this. And then we go in here in terms of the discussion, and we have a couple really cool short videos. They're all about like maybe 2 to 3 minutes each. Okay. This talks in 2013 about how joblessness affects your actual biological aging. This is 2020, okay, and how older workers are finding themselves unemployed, okay, and having trouble getting jobs. And then these are guys that right here examples where they're struggling to find employment. Okay, so we want you to get in there, okay, and again, I want you to think about these situations, and I want you to really pour out your heart. Okay, you guys are business majors. I want you to really throw yourself into this and think about, what it is that's going on in terms of these macroeconomic situations. All right, cool. A little long-winded, but it's all good. This is what we're here for. You guys need to learn, and this is, again, a lot of you guys are business majors, and if you're not, it doesn't even matter. This is really impacting all of you. So I'm going to end with that. Tell you peace and stay careful and healthy. Bye.